All right, today we're going to do Taurus moon. We're going to talk about what it is to have a Taurus moon. Neither of us have a Taurus moon, so we're just going to discuss it as such. I really like
11 out of the or 10 out of the 12 these videos.
That's true. I don't know why I have to note that. So the powerful, or the way to describe, the adjective to describe a Taurus moon is, I would say, is purposeful. Being able to be really present in the moment, being able to really take in what is happening and to process that in such a way that there's no rush and there's no immediate judgment to what's happening, but rather a slow, carefully formed assessment of what is occurring. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Taurus moons are considered to be an exalted moon placement. And I think it has a lot to do with what you just stated, as the moon being our emotions, our reactions, our habits. Taurus is the yin of the yin. You know, it's a fixed earth sign energy. And so it has no problem receiving, which is actually, I think, what the moon needs the most, right? To receive nurturance, nourishment. And so Taurus naturally just has a more, barring that there's no hard aspects to it, of course we have to look at the whole picture, but a Taurus moon is exalted, I think, because of what you said. There's this steady, calm, controlled even way of relating and reacting, and maybe a containment, as you mentioned, to the emotions.
With Taurus moon, you have a reception to what is happening, what is coming in to the experience and the being from the outside, in such a way that there is time to assess. There's time made to gradually assess what is exactly and actually occurring. So a Taurus moon's response to others and to what is happening will be very carefully, will be responded to correctly and precisely. There's something very powerful, and there's another great adjective, very strong and firm, as Molly said. It's a fixed sign, so it's a very solid and grounded response to what is occurring, even to the point where Taurus moon can ground the whole conversation, if that makes sense. It can root it in a very practical and communicative way. Where problems and issues may start is if anyone is ungrounding the earth in this moon. In other words, if there's too much fire that is shooting at it too quickly or rapidly, or there's too much air, there's too much talk, and it's not grounded in real practical discussion, this could really cause a lot of overload for the Taurus moon, because the Taurus moon is just very deliberate in its presentation and its understanding, and it's not going to entertain too much rapid fire or too much air. It needs a grounded, practical discussion and understanding. It's not going to do well with a fire moon that lashes out at it, or an air moon that talks its ear off. A water moon, of course, is going to be able to elementally merge very well and give the nourishment needed to an earth moon in terms of communication.
I like that. I noticed when I was doing some research on this that many psychologists, like prominent psychologists, at least a few, had the Taurus moon. You know, it's a materialist way of thinking, in the sense of all the earth moons, I believe, need to understand things in a way that's like very tangible. So it makes sense that there'd be scientists, psychologists, people who really want to understand tangible systems. Obviously they're not always tangible, but to try to make the intangible tangible.
Yeah, well said. There's definitely a process there to make it as clearly comprehensible and a practical in practical application,
Mm-hmm.
for others, for all of us.
I think the catchphrase, in Western astrology, each sign has kind of a slogan, and for Taurus, it's "I have." So I think of Taurus being an exalted moon placement because out of all the Earth moons, it's probably the least needing to manipulate the external environment. It can just have, it can just receive, as I was mentioning, it being so yin. There's a relaxation there to receive and to enjoy.
Well said, very well said. And you mentioned psychologists. I think there was a psychologist you were going to bring up.
Jung had this moon placement. Carl Jung, one of the great thinkers, psychologists, archetypal. He studied the archetypal.
Yeah, depth psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his work is it's controversial in these last couple of decades, I think, with a lot of his newly released work in terms of his research into alchemy, metaphysics. But I mean, he definitely, the psychology books that I read were really practical by him and really explorative too, but really from a grounded soul, like spiritual perspective, but in a powerful way. I was thinking of two. One, I was thinking of Jim Morrison, the singer of the Doors, whose lyrics and his songs were very, they were just very sensual lyrics.
Venusian.
Yeah, very sensual, very, the metaphor, the use of figurative language is very powerful in his lyrics, and the aesthetic, and he was a great, he did a lot of lyric poetry too. I guess some of that was released later, and it's just very beautiful, very aesthetic pieces, and also just his whole approach, and how he performed, how he sung. It was all very aesthetically contrived, so it seemed. It was very much an act. The other I was thinking of was the actor Robert Downey Jr., who you may not think is a Taurus moon with all the turbulence that he's had in his life, all the struggles. But at the same time, if you have ever seen an interview with him, he has very immaculate control over his presence. There's been interviewers who have tried to, I don't know, mock him or call things out.
Provoke him.
Provoke him with inappropriate commentary or things about his past that's not really appropriate. And he handles it with just a very calm facade, and actually gives them chances to communicate where they're at or what they're doing, to come clean, and be authentic in what they're doing. And he's amazing at just staying fully present, calling it out, and if need be, just walking out of the interview. Very interesting, very reserved. I mean, very much in contrast to some of the characters that he actually plays. If you think of Iron Man, who he plays in like the Marvel films. In those films, he plays someone who's very avoidant, especially of emotions. He's always kind of using his mind or speaking too much to avoid any real intimacy or authenticity. Yeah, a lot of evasion, a lot of deflection. But
what moon sign do you think Iron Man is? Aquarius.
It's the Tony Stark character, like from the comic books. I don't know. I mean, definitely a Gemini, like
air moon.
Yeah, definitely an air moon of some sort.
The master evaders.
All that, yeah, exactly.
Deflectors.
So those are my two examples. Do you have any more, or any other reflections?
Yeah, I was just gonna state again. I think when we think of Earth moons, there is very much a results. There can be, I think, with especially Virgo and Capricorn, this kind of results needing to make a mark. But in Taurus, I think it's a little more stable in that sense, though. As we mentioned, you have to look at the aspects to the moon. Like, there's an example of a Taurus moon, actually, I can give. Elliott Smith, the singer, songwriter, beautiful, just beautiful musician, like one of my favorite, most inspiring musicians. Beautiful lyrics, super heartfelt. He had moon, though, in Taurus opposing Neptune. And ultimately, his life was his personal life was extremely turbulent, with the opposition of Neptune, very involved in drugs, sublimation through drugs. So, it goes to show us, like, we see that one expression of the Taurus moon in his art, but he also had this very troubled, turbulent life, having that hard aspect from Neptune. So you always have to weigh the whole, look at the whole scenario. But I do feel like there's a propensity for the arts and for being able to maybe materialize some of these more etheric ideas and emotions and feelings. Like, there's a direct source to the feelings, and they can make it very tangible and felt. And like with Elliott Smith's music, it's like you could feel how he felt. Like, he could transmit his emotion so well. So yeah, that was all I was going to share about that. And we will be working through all the Earth moons. And if you have any topics you would like us to cover, we are happy to take requests.
All right, sounds good, you guys. Thanks.